You think seniors living alone decades ago struggled with bland, lonely lunches? Think again. These resourceful cooks turned canned goods, pantry staples, and yesterday's leftovers into satisfying midday meals that cost pennies and brought genuine comfort. Let's dig into 30 cheap vintage lunches no one makes anymore. Welsh rarebit was once the sophisticated cousin of plain cheese toast, transforming simple ingredients into something that felt almost elegant for lunch alone. The dish began with a thick sauce made from sharp cheddar melted slowly with butter, a splash of beer or milk, and a dash of Worcestershire sauce. This golden, bubbling mixture was poured over toasted bread and placed under the broiler until the edges turned brown and crispy. For seniors living alone in the 1950s and 1960s, Welsh rarebit represented an affordable indulgence requiring only pantry staples. The cheese provided protein and calcium, while the toast offered filling carbohydrates that satisfied without waste. One slice was often enough for lunch, making it economical for single-serving preparation. The dish carried memories of lunch counters where it appeared on menus as something special. Though rarely made today, Welsh rarebit proved that cheese on toast could become a meal worthy of sitting down to enjoy. Sardines on toast carried an honest simplicity that seniors living alone appreciated for both nutrition and economy. A small tin of sardines, often purchased for less than 20 cents, provided complete protein and enough substance for a satisfying midday meal. The preparation required nothing more than opening the can, arranging the fish on buttered toast, and adding perhaps a squeeze of lemon juice. The sardines came packed in oil, tomato sauce, or mustard, each variety offering different flavor profiles for minimal cost. Many seniors kept tins stacked in their pantries, knowing this lunch could be assembled in under 5 minutes without heating anything beyond the toast. The fish's salty richness paired perfectly with soft white bread, creating a combination that filled the stomach without elaborate cooking. For those watching pennies stretch across fixed incomes, sardines represented remarkable value. This humble lunch reminded many of simpler times when canned fish was considered perfectly respectable fare. Cottage cheese and canned peaches became a lunchtime staple for seniors seeking something cool, refreshing, and requiring absolutely no cooking. This combination appeared on countless plates during the 1950s and 1960s when cottage cheese was promoted for its protein content and digestibility. A scoop of creamy cottage cheese surrounded by golden peach halves created a meal that felt lighter than sandwiches but remained filling enough to sustain energy through the afternoon. The sweetness of the syrup-packed peaches balanced the mild tang of the cheese, creating flavors that complemented rather than competed. For seniors living alone, this lunch offered particular advantages, since both components kept well in the refrigerator and required no preparation beyond spooning onto a plate. A small container of cottage cheese and a single can of peaches could provide lunches for several days, stretching grocery budgets admirably. Though rarely seen on modern plates, this pairing once represented sensible, economical eating for one. Creamed corn on toast transformed a humble canned vegetable into a warm, comforting lunch that could be ready in minutes. Seniors living alone during the 1950s and 1960s often kept cans of creamed corn stacked in pantries, knowing they could heat one on the stovetop and pour it directly over buttered toast for a filling midday meal. The cream-style corn needed no additional preparation, its thick texture clinging to the bread while the natural sweetness balanced the butter's richness. Some cooks added a dash of black pepper, but the dish required no elaborate seasoning to satisfy. For those on fixed incomes, creamed corn represented remarkable value at roughly 15 cents per can, enough to top 2 or 3 slices of toast. The combination provided both carbohydrates and vegetables, offering balanced nutrition without complicated cooking. This was practical food for practical people, requiring only a saucepan and 5 minutes of attention. Though largely forgotten today, creamed corn on toast once filled stomachs across America. Hot tomato soup with saltines represented perhaps the most iconic simple lunch for seniors living alone, combining warmth, flavor, and affordability in a single bowl. Campbell's condensed soup cost roughly 12 cents per can, and stretched to serve one generously when mixed with water or milk. The soup heated quickly on the stovetop, filling the kitchen with familiar aromas that signaled lunchtime. Saltine crackers floated on top or accompanied the bowl, their salty crunch providing textural contrast to the smooth, tangy soup. For those eating alone, this lunch offered psychological comfort alongside physical nourishment since the warm bowl felt like care and attention. The soup's smooth texture went down easily for those with dental concerns. A sleeve of crackers lasted weeks, making them economical pantry staples. This pairing sustained generations of seniors through quiet lunchtimes, requiring minimal effort. Though soup cans remain on shelves, the ritual of crackers floating in tomato soup has largely faded from daily practice. Bread and milk bowl was the simplest possible lunch, yet it sustained seniors across America when appetites were small or budgets impossibly tight. This wasn't a recipe so much as a survival strategy, combining torn pieces of bread with cold or warm milk in a bowl, sometimes sprinkled with sugar. The bread softened in the milk, creating something between cereal and soup that required no cooking and minimal chewing. During the 1940s through the 1960s, many elderly folks turned to this combination when other foods seemed too heavy to prepare. The meal provided calcium from the milk and carbohydrates from the bread, offering basic nutrition when appetites had diminished. Some variations used stale bread specifically, since soaking in milk revived even the driest crusts. The dish cost mere pennies, making it accessible even during the leanest weeks before pension checks arrived. Children who visited grandparents often remembered seeing this humble bowl. Bread and milk bowl remains a powerful symbol of resourceful simplicity. Canned salmon patties transformed affordable pantry protein into crispy, satisfying lunch fare that seniors could prepare in small batches. A single can of pink salmon, costing roughly 30 cents, provided enough fish for several patties when mixed with crushed crackers, egg, and minced onion. The mixture was shaped into rounds and fried in oil until golden brown on both sides. For seniors living alone, salmon patties offered the advantage of being made fresh in whatever quantity was needed, since the canned fish kept indefinitely. 2 patties served between bread or alongside vegetables made a complete lunch, providing protein and satisfaction. The recipe required no precise measurements and forgave substitutions, making it accessible for those who rarely cooked elaborate meals. Many seniors learned to make these patties during the Depression and carried the habit into retirement. The soft bones in canned salmon provided valuable calcium. Though canned salmon still fills shelves, the art of patty making has largely disappeared. Potted meat and crackers provided quick, shelf-stable lunch protein for seniors who needed no-fuss meals ready in moments. Those small cans of spreadable meat paste, often pork or chicken-based, cost mere pennies and required no refrigeration until opened. The meat spread easily on saltines, rye crisps, or Melba toast, creating bite-sized portions that could be eaten while reading or listening to the radio. For seniors living alone, this lunch represented pure convenience since crackers stayed fresh in sleeves and meat cans stacked neatly in pantries. The flavor was salty and intensely meaty, a little going far when spread thinly across crackers. Some added pickle slices or mustard to brighten the richness, though many ate the combination plain. The protein helped maintain energy through afternoon hours when larger meals felt burdensome. This wasn't glamorous eating, but it was practical sustenance, acknowledging the reality of cooking for one. Though still sold in stores, potted meat has disappeared from respectable lunch fare. Vienna sausages and crackers served as the self-contained lunch that required no cooking, no refrigeration, and no cleanup beyond disposing of the can. Those small, soft sausages packed in briny liquid provided ready-to-eat protein that seniors living alone could access whenever hunger struck. A can cost roughly 15 cents and contained enough sausages to pair with crackers for a complete, if modest, midday meal. The sausages had a mild flavor and tender texture that some found comforting while others tolerated as practical sustenance. Eaten straight from the can with crackers, this lunch could be assembled in under 10 minutes without dirtying pots or pans. For elderly folks on fixed incomes, Vienna sausages represented protein that lasted indefinitely and required nothing beyond opening the can. Some included mustard for dipping, but many ate them plain. The lunch carried associations with simple times when elaborate preparation seemed unnecessary. Vienna sausages have largely disappeared from consideration as proper lunch fare. Open-faced cheese dreams turned simple ingredients into something that felt special enough to serve on real plates with proper attention. The preparation began with buttered bread topped with sliced cheese, then placed under the broiler until the cheese bubbled and turned golden brown at the edges. This wasn't merely cheese toast, but a composed dish that seniors living alone could make feel like an event worth sitting down to enjoy. The broiling transformed ordinary American or cheddar into something almost sophisticated, with crispy edges and molten centers that satisfied deeply. Some cooks added tomato slices beneath the cheese, variations that stretched a simple concept into infinite possibilities. For those cooking alone, cheese dreams offered portion control, since each slice of bread represented a deliberate serving. The ingredients cost mere pennies and required no special shopping, making this lunch accessible any day. Though the name has faded from vocabulary, broiled cheese on toast remains comfort food at its purest. Peanut butter on crackers served as the no-nonsense lunch that required absolutely nothing beyond opening a jar and a sleeve of saltines. For seniors living alone, this combination provided protein, fat, and carbohydrates in a form needing no refrigeration, no cooking, and no cleanup beyond wiping a knife. The peanut butter's richness satisfied hunger in ways that plain crackers never could, while the salt enhanced the nutty sweetness. A jar of peanut butter cost roughly 40 cents and lasted weeks, making it one of the most economical protein sources available. The crackers stayed fresh in their wax paper sleeves, ready whenever appetite struck. This wasn't a meal that impressed anyone, but it kept energy levels stable through afternoon hours. Many seniors ate this combination while reading or watching television, appreciating that it could be consumed without sitting at a table. Though simple to the point of seeming inadequate, peanut butter on crackers sustained countless quiet lunchtimes. Canned corned beef hash transformed from breakfast fare into a satisfying lunch when seniors needed something hot and filling without elaborate preparation. The can contained pre-mixed corned beef and potatoes that fried up crispy in a skillet with minimal attention, creating a meal that tasted far more substantial than its modest cost suggested. For those living alone, one can provide enough hash for a generous serving with perhaps some left for tomorrow. The preparation required only opening the can, scooping contents into a hot skillet, and pressing down until a golden crust formed. Some added a fried egg on top, though many ate it plain with ketchup. The salty, meaty flavor satisfied cravings for something savory and warm, especially on cold days. Canned hash kept indefinitely in pantries, ready whenever the mood struck. At roughly 35 cents per can, it represented remarkable value for protein and carbohydrates. This humble canned product sustained generations who understood that convenience and economy could coexist. Bouillon with crackers provided warmth and comfort when appetites were small, but something hot seemed necessary. Those little cubes dissolved in boiling water to create a steaming cup of broth that cost mere pennies, yet delivered genuine satisfaction. For seniors living alone, bouillon represented the simplest possible hot lunch, requiring only a kettle and a mug. The broth's salty warmth felt nourishing, even when solid food held no appeal, making it particularly valuable during illness or on days when energy for cooking didn't exist. Crackers floating in the broth or eaten alongside provided substance, turning liquid into something approaching a meal. Beef and chicken varieties offered options, though many seniors kept both in their pantries. The cubes stored indefinitely and took up almost no space, making them essential emergency provisions. This wasn't lunch that anyone bragged about, but it served its purpose admirably. On cold afternoons, a cup of bouillon brought comfort that belied its simplicity. Canned pork and beans delivered complete nutrition in a form that seniors living alone could heat and eat within minutes. The beans provided protein and fiber, while the sweet tomato sauce made them palatable without additional seasoning. A single can cost roughly 15 cents and contained enough beans for a satisfying lunch, often with leftovers for the next day. The preparation couldn't have been simpler. Open the can, pour into a saucepan, and heat until bubbling. Some seniors ate them straight from the pan to save washing dishes. The small pieces of pork fat added richness that plain beans lacked, though the quantity was never enough to feel heavy. Served with bread to soak up the sauce, pork and beans became a complete meal that stuck to the ribs through afternoon hours. The cans stacked neatly in pantries and lasted years without spoiling. For generations raised during the Depression, pork and beans represented security. This humble product never pretended to be fancy, but it fed millions who valued reliability. Liverwurst on rye carried old-world flavors into American lunchtime, offering rich, spreadable protein that seniors with European roots appreciated. The liver-based spread came in convenient tubes or wrapped logs that kept well in refrigerators for weeks. Spread thickly on dense rye bread, Liverwurst created a sandwich with genuine substance and distinctive flavor that stood apart from blander lunch meats. For those living alone, the portion control was natural since you spread only what you needed. The strong, slightly mineral taste paired perfectly with sharp mustard and perhaps a pickle slice, creating complexity from simple components. Many seniors remembered this from childhoods when organ meats were everyday food. The combination of rye bread's earthy chew with Liverwurst's creamy richness satisfied in ways that softer breads couldn't match. At roughly 25 cents for a log that made multiple sandwiches, Liverwurst represented economical protein. This old-fashioned lunch has largely disappeared from modern tables. Cream cheese and olive sandwiches brought a touch of elegance to solo lunches, combining creamy richness with briny punctuation in every bite. The preparation involved spreading softened cream cheese on white bread, then pressing sliced green olives into the surface before adding the top slice. For seniors living alone, this sandwich felt slightly fancy without requiring expensive ingredients or complicated technique. The cream cheese provided protein and fat while the olives added flavor that elevated the combination beyond expectations. Ladies who remembered tea parties often made these as treats connecting present meals to pleasant memories. The ingredients kept well in refrigerators, with a block of cream cheese lasting through multiple lunches and a jar of olives providing weeks of use. Some variations added pimento or chopped celery, though the classic version needed nothing more. At roughly 15 cents per sandwich, this seemed like affordable indulgence. The cream cheese and olive combination has largely faded from memory. Canned chicken noodle soup served as the universal comfort lunch for seniors living alone, requiring nothing more than a can opener and a few minutes on the stovetop. Campbell's and other brands cost roughly 15 cents per can and stretched with water to fill a generous bowl. The soup heated quickly, filling kitchens with aromas that signaled care and nourishment even when no one else was present. The noodles provided substance, the broth delivered warmth, and the small pieces of chicken added protein that justified calling it a complete lunch. For those with diminished appetites or difficulty chewing, the soft textures went down easily. Crackers crumbled into the bowl, extended the meal, and added satisfying crunch. Many seniors kept cases of chicken noodle soup stacked in pantries, viewing them as essential provisions against hunger and loneliness alike. The soup worked equally well for lunch or light supper, providing flexibility that busier meals couldn't offer. This humble can has sustained generations through quiet lunchtimes. Prunes and cottage cheese combined two foods that seniors ate for practical health reasons into a lunch that actually tasted pleasant together. The cottage cheese provided protein and calcium, while the prunes offered fiber and natural sweetness that made the combination more appealing than either alone. For those living alone, this lunch required no cooking and minimal preparation beyond spooning portions onto a plate. The prunes came dried in boxes that stored indefinitely, while cottage cheese kept refrigerated for reasonable periods. Many seniors ate this knowing it addressed digestive concerns that came with aging, finding that necessity and pleasure could coexist. The sweetness of stewed or softened prunes cut through the cottage cheese's mild tang, creating balance. Some added a sprinkle of cinnamon, though many ate the combination plain. The lunch felt virtuous without tasting medicinal. Though rarely seen on modern plates, prunes and cottage cheese once appeared regularly on senior lunch tables across America. crackers with cheese spread provided instant gratification for seniors who needed lunch without any preparation whatsoever. Those jars of processed cheese spread, often Cheese Whiz or store brands, required no slicing, no refrigeration until opened, and spread easily even on delicate crackers. The flavor was salty, vaguely cheesy, and intensely satisfying to those who grew up when such convenience products represented modern marvels. For seniors living alone, the combination offered protein and carbohydrates in forms that could be consumed standing at the counter or sitting in a favorite chair. A jar of cheese spread cost roughly 30 cents and lasted through numerous lunches. The crackers maintained freshness in their sleeves, ready whenever hunger called. This wasn't gourmet eating, but it was practical sustenance acknowledging the reality of solo dining. Many seniors kept cheese spread as pantry staples alongside peanut butter. The combination delivered quick satisfaction without dirtying pots or pans. Canned spaghetti on toast turned a children's food into a surprisingly satisfying senior lunch that could be ready in under 5 minutes. The canned spaghetti, whether Franco-American or store brand, heated quickly and poured directly over buttered toast created a meal that felt more substantial than its humble origins suggested. For seniors living alone, one can provide it enough for a generous serving, sometimes with leftovers for the next day. The sweet tomato sauce soaked into the toast while the soft noodles provided easy-to-chew texture. The combination delivered carbohydrates, some protein, and the psychological comfort of something warm and filling. At roughly 20 cents per can, this lunch stretched budgets admirably. The toast added crunch and helped extend the canned spaghetti, making the meal feel complete rather than skimpy. Many seniors who'd fed this to children discovered it worked equally well for solo lunches when cooking seemed burdensome. Canned spaghetti on toast has faded from respectable lunch options. Hard-boiled eggs with toast provided complete protein in a form that seniors could prepare in advance and eat throughout the week. A dozen eggs cost roughly 40 cents and could be boiled all at once, then stored in the refrigerator for quick lunches. The preparation was foolproof. Place eggs in water, bring to a boil, cover and remove from heat, then peel when ready to eat. Served on buttered toast with salt and pepper, this lunch felt substantial without requiring cooking skill. Some seniors mashed the eggs with a fork, while others sliced them neatly across the toast. The combination delivered protein, fat, and carbohydrates in balanced proportions. For those living alone, preparing eggs ahead meant lunch could be ready in minutes on busy days. The shells protected cooked eggs from absorbing refrigerator odors. This simple lunch sustained countless seniors who appreciated that nutrition didn't require complexity. Canned vegetable soup offered variety and nutrition for seniors who wanted something warm without making soup from scratch. Those cans contained mixed vegetables in savory broth that heated quickly and filled a bowl with colorful, comforting fare. For seniors living alone, one can provide a generous lunch portion, often with enough left for tomorrow. The soup cost roughly 15 cents and required nothing more than opening and heating. The soft vegetables were easy to chew, making this particularly appealing for those with dental concerns. Crackers or bread accompanied the bowl, soaking up broth and extending the meal. Many seniors kept several cans stacked in pantries, viewing them as reliable provisions against days when cooking felt impossible. The soup provided vitamins from vegetables that might otherwise be missing from simplified diets. This wasn't fancy eating, but it delivered genuine nourishment. Leftover meat sandwiches transformed Sunday's roast into Monday's practical lunch, stretching one cooking effort across multiple meals. Seniors living alone often prepared a small roast on weekends, knowing the leftovers would provide weekday lunches. The cold meat, sliced thin and stacked between bread with mustard or mayonnaise, created sandwiches requiring no additional cooking. For those on fixed incomes, this represented remarkable economy since the meat served double duty. The sandwiches traveled well for doctor's appointments, wrapped in wax paper and tucked into handbags. Some added lettuce or pickles when available, though many ate them plain. The flavors actually improved after a day in the refrigerator. This lunch reminded seniors of kitchens where waste was unthinkable, and every scrap found purpose. Leftover meat sandwiches proved that planning ahead created both convenience and economy. Canned fruit cocktail provided a sweet, refreshing lunch for seniors whose appetites had diminished or who preferred lighter midday meals. The can contained mixed fruits in syrup, including peaches, pears, grapes, and cherries, requiring nothing more than opening and spooning into a bowl. For seniors living alone, this fruit offered vitamins and natural sugars, providing quick energy without heaviness. The cost was minimal, roughly 20 cents per can, and the contents kept indefinitely until opened. Some ate the fruit cocktail alone, while others paired it with cottage cheese or toast. The sweetness appealed to older palates that sometimes struggled with savory foods. The soft textures required minimal chewing, making this accessible for those with dental problems. Canned fruit cocktail sustained seniors through summer heat when heavier meals felt unappealing. This colorful dish represented practical nutrition. Tomato and mayonnaise sandwiches celebrated summer's bounty in the simplest form, requiring nothing more than ripe tomatoes, soft bread, and generous mayonnaise. For seniors with gardens or access to farmers' markets, this lunch represented free food transformed into genuine pleasure. The tomatoes were sliced thick and layered on white bread spread with mayo, then seasoned generously with salt and pepper. The combination seemed almost too simple, yet flavors married perfectly when tomatoes were at peak ripeness. The sandwich cost mere pennies when tomatoes came from the garden. Some added a crisp lettuce leaf for crunch, though purists insisted tomato and mayo needed nothing else. The juices soaked into the bread, creating a texture that was messy but deeply satisfying. This appeared on tables across America during tomato season, reminding seniors of childhood summers and simpler times when gardens fed families. Canned chili delivered hearty satisfaction for seniors who wanted something substantial without cooking from scratch. Those cans contained meat, beans, and tomatoes in spiced sauce that heated quickly and filled a bowl with warming comfort. For seniors living alone, one can provide a generous serving, sometimes with leftovers. The chili cost roughly 25 cents and required nothing more than opening and heating. Some added crackers on top, while others ate it with bread on the side. The protein from meat and beans sustained energy through afternoon hours better than lighter lunches. The spices stimulated appetites that sometimes needed encouragement. Many seniors kept cans stacked in pantries, ready for cold days when something warming seemed essential. This wasn't homemade chili, but it delivered genuine satisfaction for those cooking alone. Canned chili sustained countless quiet lunches. Crackers with apple butter provided sweetness and satisfaction without requiring any cooking or complicated preparation. The apple butter came in jars that kept for months, its thick, spiced spread perfect for saltines or graham crackers. For seniors living alone, this combination offered quick energy from natural fruit sugars along with the comfort of familiar flavors. A jar of apple butter cost roughly 20 cents and lasted through numerous lunches when used sparingly. The crackers stayed fresh in their sleeves, ready whenever appetite called. Some seniors remembered making apple butter themselves, simmering apples for hours until they became this thick, dark spread. The taste connected them to autumn harvests and family traditions even when eating alone. This lunch wasn't protein-rich, but it lifted spirits during quiet afternoons. Crackers with apple butter represented simple sweetness. Canned bean soup provided protein-rich warmth for seniors who needed filling lunches without complicated preparation. Those cans contained navy beans or ham and beans in savory broth that heated quickly and delivered genuine nourishment. For seniors living alone, one can offer a substantial lunch, often enough for 2 servings. The soup cost roughly 15 cents and required nothing beyond opening and heating. The beans provided both protein and fiber, making this one of the most nutritionally complete canned options available. Some added bread to soak up the broth, while others ate the soup alone with crackers. The flavors reminded many of home-cooked bean soup that simmered all day, though this version required only minutes. Many seniors kept several cans stacked in pantries as reliable provisions for days when cooking felt impossible. Canned bean soup sustained countless quiet lunches with warmth. Cheese and crackers with fruit created a composed plate that felt more like an occasion than mere lunch. Seniors would arrange sliced cheddar or American cheese on crackers alongside whatever fruit was available, perhaps apple slices or canned pears. The combination provided protein from cheese, carbohydrates from crackers, and vitamins from fruit in a balanced, no-cook meal. For those on fixed incomes, this lunch could be assembled from whatever was on hand without requiring a trip to the store. The cheese kept well in the refrigerator, crackers stayed fresh in their sleeves, and canned fruit waited in the pantry. Some added a few nuts when available, creating something approaching a proper lunch board. The arrangement made eating alone feel intentional rather than sad, turning simple ingredients into something worth sitting down to enjoy. This lunch reminded seniors that meals could be simple yet complete. Oatmeal for lunch might have seemed unusual, but seniors often discovered that this breakfast staple worked equally well at midday. The oats were inexpensive, cooked in minutes, and provided sustained energy that lighter lunches couldn't match. For those with limited appetites or digestive concerns, oatmeal offered gentle nourishment that went down easily. A container of oats cost mere pennies per serving and lasted for weeks in the pantry. Some added brown sugar or honey for sweetness, while others stirred in a spoonful of peanut butter for protein. The warm, soft texture comforted in ways that cold sandwiches never could. Many seniors had eaten oatmeal since childhood and found its familiar flavor soothing during quiet lunches alone. The preparation required only a saucepan and a few minutes. Oatmeal for lunch proved that conventional meal categories mattered less than finding nourishment. Popularized in American households in the early 1900s, so tender Swiss steak involves a method of preparing a tougher cut of beef, such as round steak, by pounding or rolling before cooking. This tenderizing process, known as Swissing, lends the dish its name, although it has no connection to Switzerland. Traditionally, the steak is browned, then slow-cooked in a rich tomato and onion gravy, allowing the flavors to meld and the meat to become fork tender. This dish showcased an economical approach to cooking during the Great Depression, providing a delicious solution for less desirable cuts of meat. The preparation of Swiss steak often became a Sunday dinner ritual, where its slow cooking could proceed alongside family activities, making it an integral part of the family dining experience. Green tomato pie is something that'll have you running back for seconds. First off, you gotta hand it to whoever made this dish for their ingenuity. It's not every day you get a banger of a dish that actually is centered around making the green tomato shine out of everything else, but Southern home cooking will do that for you. Charlotte's green tomato pie in particular makes use of some typical Southern spices like cinnamon and nutmeg and unripened green tomatoes, and has you making a pie that'll rival even the best apple ones you could find at bakeries. Green tomatoes have an especially great harvest during the fall, so that's when this dish would see the most mileage. You would find houses all over the South constantly making green tomato pies, and this specific pie is an example of how you don't need anything fancy to create something that can get everyone at the table. You know what's even funnier? This dish is one of the best things to come out of mock cooking, because it was made to imitate mock apple pie and mincemeat pies. An imitation of an imitation ends up giving us something that was a big part of Southern culture. Who would have thought? Picture this. New York, 1896, the swanky Waldorf Astoria Hotel, and there you have the birth of the Waldorf salad. This crunchy mix of apples, celery, and walnuts all tied together with a creamy mayonnaise dressing became a hit for its refreshing simplicity and elegance. It was Oscar Cherky, the maître d'hôtel, who is credited with creating this iconic dish, which has no lettuce despite being a salad. It's the kind of dish that added a touch of class to any gathering, easy to whip up but sophisticated enough to impress. Over the years, folks have played around with the ingredients, throwing in grapes, swapping mayo for yogurt, or adding a sprinkle of chicken to bulk it up. But as culinary scenes expanded, the Waldorf salad started appearing less frequently, edged out by a parade of new salads flaunting global flavors and lighter dressings. Still, its knack for blending textures continues to influence salad trends far and wide. Bacon cheddar potato skins epitomize the fusion of simple ingredients into a beloved American bar snack. This dish, which emerged prominently in the culinary scene during the 1970s, utilizes russet potatoes known for their thick skin and starchy content. making them ideal for baking and frying. The preparation involves halving the potatoes and scooping out most of the flesh, leaving about a 1/4 inch attached to the skin. The hollowed-out skins are then baked or deep-fried until crisp and golden. Once crisped, these skins are stuffed with generous amounts of sharp cheddar cheese and crisp crumbled bacon. The cheddar is chosen for its melting properties and strong flavor, which pairs well with the smoky bacon. The filled skins are then returned to the oven until the cheese melts into a bubbly, golden pool. The dish's widespread popularity helped elevate the status of the potato from a simple side dish to a featured player in the culinary world. I don't need to tell you about how much America and the West in general love rice pudding. It's been something that's helped rural and urban populations get through some disastrously tough times, as well as a warm memory from childhood for a lot of people. One variation of the classic rice pudding was a Swedish rice ring, which would mostly be served at Christmas or a family get-together, but it eventually extended into daily use too. The dish first started off as something you'd only find in Scandinavian communities, and they'd really make heaps of the stuff. Enough to go around a big family of 6 or 8 with a bowl for each, and it makes sense too since it was made using some pretty average ingredients. Stuff like rice, milk, and cream were all you needed to get a Swedish rice ring going. The way it differed from normal rice pudding is in how the dish was originally always made with some kind of spice and topped with fruit or served alongside jam. Later on, when it expanded past the Scandinavian locale and got adopted into widespread use, people started using nutmeg and cinnamon as well. Some scant cookbooks might still recall the dish and the times where it was a great comfort meal, but a lot of the new ones don't really remember it anymore. Now, beef stroganoff is like a warm hug from the past. This dish hails from 19th century Russia, dreamt up by a chef who worked for the Stroganoff family. When it hit American soil, it quickly became a household favorite, particularly beloved in the 50s and 60s for its exotic yet homey vibe. It's all about those tender beef strips swimming in a creamy sour cream sauce, often jazzed up with mushrooms and onions, and served over a bed of noodles or rice. Perfect for anything from a casual family dinner to a more decked-out gathering. Although it's not as prevalent as it once was, likely due to folks leaning towards lighter meals, beef stroganoff still shows its face around the globe, tweaked here and there to suit local tastes. The taco salad, which emerged as a popular dish in American cuisine in the 1960s, is a notable example of Tex-Mex culinary fusion. The typical taco salad starts with a crunchy tortilla bowl filled with lettuce, seasoned ground beef, shredded cheese, diced tomatoes, and black olives, finished with dollops of sour cream and salsa. This dish illustrates the adaptability of Mexican cuisine to American tastes, incorporating more cheese and sour cream than traditional Mexican salads. Taco salads became particularly popular in the 1980s, often served at gatherings and potlucks due to their customizable nature, which allowed guests to tailor the toppings to their preferences. Taco salad's popularity also coincided with a growing interest in more casual dining experiences at home, where families and friends could interact in more relaxed settings. Hoppin' John is a dish that has some pretty rich heritage. I'm talking about African, Caribbean, and Native American roots that all boil together in the melting pot known as the South, where it first started becoming really trendy. However, the origins of the dish are actually a bit darker than just a happy coincidence that somehow got into everyone's table. Though the people who were eating it happily wouldn't know, it was first created and brought over by enslaved Africans in the American South. It made use of African rice and pork, and yes, the best part of the dish were the black-eyed peas even in those times. Now, as far as the name Hoppin' John is considered, nobody really ever knew where it first came from, or if there was a John who made this dish and brought it into everyone's lives, but the first time this name was mentioned was in the 1840s in a print. If you were down in the South in African American communities during New Year, then you would especially see a lot of Hoppin' Johns everywhere. The aroma of those peas and the smoked pork wouldn't miss anyone's nose, as the scent carried for miles and miles away. It was eaten specifically on New Year's because it was a common belief that eating Hoppin' Johns would bring good luck to people if they ate it to start the year. If you went into any new year with such a good plate of food, I'd say your luck was already pretty good, so maybe it does work? Liver and onions. That's a dish that harks back to when folks appreciated the hearty, nutrient-packed offerings from the kitchen. This classic is made from beef liver, often soaked in milk to soften its robust flavor, then fried up with onions until the liver's crispy on the edges but tender inside. Known for its high iron content, liver and onions was especially popular among older generations for its health benefits. The caramelized onions add a sweet contrast that's just right. It really caught on in parts of the US with big meatpacking industries, like the Midwest and Northeast, where fresh offal was easy to come by. But as tastes evolved, the dish started seeing less love, probably because today's diners often opt for lighter, less intense flavors. It's definitely not the menu staple it once was. Lunchables were launched in 1988 by Oscar Mayer, a brand owned by Kraft Foods, aimed at simplifying school lunch preparation for busy parents while appealing to children with fun, customizable options. Originally conceived during a company brainstorming session, the idea was to create a product that could use the brand's existing meat products in a novel way. The initial Lunchables kit featured crackers, processed cheese, and sliced meats, and could be assembled into miniature sandwiches, mimicking the action of building with blocks, which resonated well with children. Over the years, Lunchables expanded to include various themes like pizzas and tacos. The marketing campaigns for Lunchables focused heavily on fun and convenience, successfully capturing the interest of both parents and children. The packaging also evolved from simple plastic trays to more vibrant and engaging designs that featured games and trivia, enhancing the appeal. These kits not only changed the way food is packaged, but also influenced children's lunch habits by providing a fun and interactive way to enjoy their midday meal. Speaking of those times, another really good source of protein was catfish, and one of the best ways to have it was fried catfish with hush puppies. This is again something that'll take us right to the heart of Southern cooking if we eat it. Along those rural places near rivers, lakes, ponds, and other bodies of water where you could find fresh catfish in abundance. Hush puppies were something made with fried cornmeal batter and were a popular dish to give to soldiers during the Civil War, so all in all, this dish was really light money-wise. Some basic Cajun spices or a Southern spice blend would make it even better into a real full-fledged meal that you could eat in comfort with the family. While it's been a big part of Southern cooking ever since the 19th century, it arguably had its biggest glory days in the 20th one as part of Southern soul food. There was a time in the 30s to 40s where soul food started to get into more and more menus across several places in the South, which wasn't always the case. Thank God it did, though, because steamed catfish definitely doesn't hit the spot quite like fried ones do with some golden brown hush puppies. Back in 1958, Vince DeDomenico decided to bless us with rice-a-roni, branding it as the San Francisco treat. This nifty dish combines rice and vermicelli, browned up in butter, then simmered down in a savory broth. Talk about a tasty side dish that clicked with American families. The big sell was how versatile and easy it was to make, perfect for the fast-paced lifestyle folks were leading. With a lineup of flavors like chicken, beef, and Spanish, there was something for everyone. The catchy jingle from its commercials, Rice-A-Roni, the San Francisco treat, helped cement its place in American culture. The best part? Just sauté and simmer. Even though its heyday has seen a bit of a dip with the rise of health-conscious eating and more quick-prep meal options, Rice-A-Roni still stands out as a hallmark of culinary creativity from back in the day. Known affectionately as a hot dish in the Midwest, the tater tot casserole is a quintessential example of American comfort food. It was popularized in the 1950s as a convenient way to create a hearty meal with minimal ingredients. The casserole consists of a base layer of ground beef seasoned with onions, a binder of condensed mushroom or chicken soup, a layer of canned or frozen vegetables, and a top layer of crisp tater tots. As it bakes, the tater tots form a golden crust, providing a crunchy contrast to the creamy, savory mixture below. The casserole's popularity also demonstrates the post-war American innovation in using processed and prepackaged foods to save time in the kitchen, a trend that mirrored the nation's growing emphasis on convenience and efficiency in everyday life. Speedies are also something you would find at gatherings for family or just friends, mostly because no party is complete without a good platter of meat skewers going around a few drinks. So, mostly people would enjoy these most when the meat was lamb, but some areas like California would use chicken or beef too. It was really the grilling where the magic happened. These plates of speedies set the mood in a party alight. It was a taste that, when they experienced it, people at a party knew that they were in for a really good time. The kind of dish that gets a crowd excited and hungry. There were even speedafests in Binghamton and all around New York in general. It was a part of the local culture that no big celebration was really complete without. The reason it got popular wasn't just because of a regional preference in New York, though. The dish was bold, tangy, and citrusy, and it could double as an amazing sandwich too. You would find these in street stalls throughout New York, as well as at homes, but nowadays the dish has faded away into irrelevance. Sloppy joes are basically ground beef, onions, and either tomato sauce or ketchup, all jazzed up with some brown sugar and maybe a dash of Worcestershire sauce. This messy delight started out in Sioux City, Iowa, back in the 1930s, whipped up by a cook named Joe. The name Sloppy Joes was actually coined due to the messiness of the sandwich, quickly becoming a humorous yet appetizing moniker. They're super tangy and a bit sweet, making them a hit with pretty much everyone who tries them. Plus, they're cheap and easy to make in big batches, perfect for feeding a crowd without breaking the bank. You'll find people tweaking them with bell peppers, garlic, or chili powder depending on where you are. They were everywhere in school cafeterias because kids loved them and they were easy to make in bulk. Ham and cheese quiche, which gained prominence in American kitchens in the 1970s, is a refined yet simple dish, originating from French cuisine but fully embraced by American bakers. This savory pie combines a flaky pastry crust with a luscious filling of eggs, cream, diced ham, and shredded cheese, often Swiss or cheddar for extra flavor. The quiche is baked until the egg mixture sets into a creamy custard, perfect for slicing. It became popular not just for its delicious taste, but for its adaptability to various dining occasions, from brunches to dinner parties. The dish's versatility extends to the kitchen, where variations might include different types of meat, vegetables, or cheeses, depending on the cook's preference or the ingredients on hand. Moreover, the preparation of quiche contributed to its status as a dish that could be dressed up for guests or scaled down for a simple family meal. You hear the name rumaki and you might start thinking about some pretty exotic dishes, but it's actually more of a humble appetizer that picks a few flavors and does them really, really well. It was also made at Trader Vic's, a Polynesian-style restaurant right here in Uncle Sam's USA, which I'm sure you didn't see coming either. I wouldn't blame you for thinking it's exotic, since at tiki parties it was definitely considered that, and when tiki culture as a whole started erupting into the mainstream of American eating, it was still sought after, with just as much interest. The dish itself also makes use of some things that aren't familiar, and some that are, like chicken livers, water chestnuts, and bacon. It was a really good hors d'oeuvre that boomed in popularity after the World War II era, though you'd be pretty stumped if you tried to go out and look for it today. Still, it's kind of sad we can't go out to parties and experience chestnuts and crispy bacon anymore, wouldn't you agree? Or is tiki cooking not really up your alley? Chicken a la king. Now there's a dish with a bit of a mystery to its name, possibly named after a hotel chef or a guy named James King. It hit the scene big time in the early 20th century across the US. We're talking creamy, luxurious sauce loaded with tender chicken chunks, mushrooms, pimientos, and green peppers, all ready to be spooned over rice, pasta, or bread. It was the perfect solution for turning yesterday's chicken into today's treasure, making it a regular at dinner parties and family gatherings back in the 50s and 60s. As tastes have evolved towards faster, lighter, and more varied dining options, chicken a la king isn't the staple it once was, but it still gets some love around the world, tweaked to fit local flavors and preferences. The introduction of Mexican lasagna in the 1980s showcased the seamless integration of Mexican flavors into traditional Italian architecture. This layered delight swaps out standard lasagna noodles for tortillas and the usual marinara for a zesty salsa, layering ground beef seasoned with taco spices, refried beans, and plenty of cheese. Each oven-baked layer melds into a textural symphony that's both familiar and novel. This dish not only catered to the growing American appetite for global flavors, but also provided a fun, festive twist on the classic lasagna, making it a favored choice at dinner parties and family nights. Its preparation, often involving family members in the assembly process, turned cooking into an interactive experience, further solidifying its popularity. We're going to go forward in time a bit, all the way to the beginning of what most people consider the late 20th century, where stuffed zucchini boats first started becoming something you would hear about regularly. At bars, from your friends and colleagues, or your partners. They became really hot in the 60s and 70s when it felt like everyday people were trying another dish from a new country that hadn't really touched base in America yet. It was the first time people expanded their taste buds beyond the bacon, pancake, and hash brown breakfasts they were mostly used to. Plus, stuffed zucchini boats were really healthy. They were a lot better to eat than those aforementioned breakfasts. The best part was that you could really change up the fillings, so depending on what you wanted, you could have fully vegetarian zucchini boats or ones with ground beef stuffings. People say this is a part of Italian-American cooking, but a lot of Mediterranean cooking makes use of dishes similar to zucchini boats, like using stuffed peppers and vegetables like eggplants. So, tuna noodle casserole really found its footing back when the wallet was a bit tighter for most folks. It's all about mixing up some canned tuna, those squiggly egg noodles, a creamy mushroom soup base, some peas, and whatever crispy stuff you've got, like crushed chips or breadcrumbs. It became a household name during those pinch penny times, serving as a cost-effective way to fill up the family table. Ads would rave about how you could whip this up in a flash. Total lifesaver for the busy families. And over time, everyone started throwing their own twist into the mix, like in the Midwest where they love tossing in cheddar cheese, or others jazzing it up with veggies like celery or bell peppers. Always a hit at family dinners, especially when the weather turns cold and you need something hearty. Introduced during the 1970s in the American broccoli casserole became a beloved dish that cleverly combined the need for convenience with the desire for flavorful meals. This casserole mixes chopped cooked ham and broccoli with a rich cheese sauce, often made creamier with the addition of a condensed soup, which is then topped with breadcrumbs or crushed crackers for texture and baked until golden. This dish exemplifies the era's ingenuity in using readily available, often pre-processed ingredients to create a dish that could serve as a one-pot meal, reducing both preparation time and cleanup. It became particularly favored for its versatility, allowing variations such as substituting chicken for ham or adding different vegetables, thus catering to a range of palates and pantry contents. The casserole's popularity surged as it appeared in magazine spreads and cooking shows, often recommended for its ability to double as a dish suitable for both weeknight family dinners and social gatherings. Ah, green bean casserole, a dish that smells like nostalgia and tastes like comfort. Invented in 1955 by Dorcas Riley at the Campbell Soup Company, this casserole was a genius way to use up pantry staples: canned green beans, cream of mushroom soup, and crispy fried onions. It quickly became a Thanksgiving must-have, celebrated for its creamy goodness and that irresistible onion crunch. Despite its fame, the casserole has seen a bit of a downturn in everyday use, outpaced by fresher, trendier side dishes. Yet, chefs and home cooks have been giving it a modern makeover, using fresh green beans or homemade mushroom sauce to elevate the classic. Some regional versions even throw in bacon or cheese, adding a bit of local flair to this beloved dish. Bacon. Crackers, sure, they're pretty good even as a typical easygoing breakfast, but what do we really do here? You eat something enough times, you tend to get used to it and get bored. How do you get around that? Well, since the topic is retro dishes, we used to hear a lot about bacon bow tie crackers back in the day. It was something you could find for breakfast or a cocktail appetizer, which is some serious versatility. The crackers were extra crispy since they were wrapped inside bacon and then baked until the bacon itself was pretty crispy. It was the perfect combo, and all they needed was each other to realize that. It was smoky but sweet. It was also savory, but buttery smooth and not dry at all. Dishes that are such neat little combinations like these are often hiding right under your nose, And if we didn't have the imagination of so many home chefs who found these and got them into the public sphere, then we'd be a lot more tasteless as a country. Launched in 1937 by Hormel Foods, Spam quickly became a staple during World War II thanks to its long shelf life and ease of use. Spam sandwiches, which might be grilled or not, served with simple condiments like mustard or mayo, were a hit, particularly where fresh meat was scarce. In Hawaii, Spam became so popular that it led to the creation of the local favorite, Spam musubi, combining the canned meat with rice and seaweed. Over time, however, the popularity of Spam sandwiches has waned. While marketing once played up Spam's affordability and versatility, shifts towards health and quality have lessened its appeal. Despite this, Spam remains a cultural icon in places like Hawaii, where it stars in local dishes like Spam musubi, showcasing its unique role in regional cuisines. Cabbage rolls trace their roots to Eastern European cuisines, brought to the United States by immigrant communities. This dish involves steamed cabbage leaves wrapped around a filling of mixed ground meats, rice, and herbs, then baked in a tomato-based sauce. Each component, from the soft cabbage exterior to the rich, flavorful filling, plays a pivotal role in crafting a dish that is both filling and balanced. Introduced to American tables by the early 20th century, cabbage rolls became a meaningful dish among families, often prepared for large gatherings and special events due to their somewhat labor-intensive preparation. The recipe's ability to be made in large batches and stored for later use made it practical for both festive occasions and efficient home cooking, bridging the gap between tradition and convenience in the American culinary repertoire. So the next two dishes we have on the list are actually some classics right out of Africa and its many varied cuisines. First off, we have chicken and collard greens pilau, which is just the perfect dish to have if you're aching for something that involves a lot of rice in it. The steamed and boiled chicken mixed with the pilau as a base for the dish gives it an aroma that's pretty much unbeatable. Back in the middle of the 20th century, if you really wanted to experiment with some foreign cooking and tastes, then you would go into African American communities and try out the best of their soul food. You'd have to look around a little for the really nice restaurants, especially if you were in places like the southern parts of America, but nonetheless, people found a way. Pilau itself is also a dish that's extremely common in the subcontinent for many reasons. People use basmati rice for this, which is a little different from the rice you guys might be used to, but if you give it a shot, you might find that it has a more full flavor all around. Also, don't even get me started on how good this is for you. If you're a gym bro looking for a great way to add some tasty protein and carbs to your diet, then chicken and collard greens with some pilau is a pretty flawless place to start. Pimento cheese really kicked off in the early 20th century, thanks to some clever innovations in the US dairy industry. It's a simple mix: grated cheddar, pimento peppers, and a dollop of mayonnaise, creating a spread that's both creamy and has a nice kick from those sweet peppers. This spread really took off in the South, where pimentos were as common as sunshine, becoming a go-to for sandwiches, celery fillers, or slathered on a burger at a backyard barbecue. The thing about pimento cheese is its adaptability. Over the years, folks have jazzed it up with jalapenos, onions, or a dash of smoked paprika, catering to all sorts of taste buds. While its star has dimmed a bit, overtaken by the surge in artisanal cheeses and spreads, it once ruled the roost at Southern gatherings, perfectly complementing the comfort food vibe. Combining two iconic American fast foods, the cheeseburger and French fries, into one dish, the cheeseburger French fry casserole emerged as a popular meal option in the late 1980s. This casserole layers seasoned ground beef mixed with ketchup, mustard, and chopped onions, topped with a layer of French fries, sprinkled with shredded cheese, and baked until golden and bubbly. Introduced in the kitchens of inventive home cooks during the 1990s, this casserole was a response to a growing interest in recreating fast food favorites at home, offering a fun and fuss-free dinner option that delighted both kids and adults alike. Creamed chipped beef, often fondly referred to as SOS by those who've served in the military, is a simple dish of dried beef in a white sauce, typically spooned over toast. This dish's nickname, "shit on a shingle," comes from its appearance and was a humorous yet endearing term used by service members. It gained fame in military settings for its straightforward, filling nature, making use of economical ingredients to feed many mouths. Despite its practical roots and comforting taste, its appeal has dwindled in civilian life, where fresher, zestier flavors are now in vogue. The modern palate tends to favor dishes that are lower in sodium and fat, moving away from heavier, cream-based comfort foods in favor of lighter, more nuanced culinary options. So this is a bit of a tricky name to pronounce even when you give it a genuine try, but it's worth knowing about this dish because of how good it is. Ballymaloe Irish lamb stew is something that comes all the way from County Cork, and lamb stew is something that Americans welcome with very open arms. You can particularly find this dish being spread in droves around St. Patrick's Day in any Irish-American community. Whether you're in New Hampshire or Rhode Island, which even today have a pretty solid amount of Irishmen living in them, you're bound to run into a Ballymaloe stew once in a while. Despite how good of a stew it is, with tender carrots, potatoes, and tender strips of lamb, and how simple the preparation is since it relies mostly on the natural flavors present in the ingredients, this dish actually flopped once before. Well, I wouldn't say it was a true flop, but it did fade out of the memory of the general public before too. That was before the 20th century, but ever since then it has been seeing a bit of a revival thanks to social media and Ballymaloe House, which is what it's named after. Either way, this is one of the best recipes to ever come out of a family cookbook. And if you've ever had one while at an Irish friend's home, then you know exactly what I'm talking about. Which cheap vintage lunch would you bring back to your table? Drop your memories in the comments, hit like, and subscribe for more forgotten meals worth remembering.